Internet, what is popping? I should really do my hair before I do it. No one bloody watches them anyway. Funnily enough, though, I did have a couple of thoughts I wanted to share. You know this whole Tommy Robinson thing of Quran's bad and Islam's bad? Well, then, why is there millions of peaceful Muslims then? If the Quran was inherently bad, and it wasn't just used by dark energies, people that step outside of their own moral compass, then why is there so many peaceful Muslims? If the Quran was actually the problem, then I'm sure they'd all be doing it, but they don't, because it's not. It's the twisting of it. It's the twisting of jihadi out of context and without proper perception, I would suggest, that causes the problems. And then, because you don't get, all these gangs and stuff in England, that's a problem that the government are covering up. Why they don't all Muslims don't do that. There's millions of peaceful Muslims. So it's not that then, is it? It's the twisting of it. But the thing is, Christianity is the only one where it feels like the twisting of it sort of isn't possible. But it also doesn't account for the whole world. It doesn't account for the full story, Christianity, because that element of jihadi, where you have to stand up for yourself eventually, if you mix that with Christianity, that seems to be a good mix. There was another thing I wanted to share as well that I thought of the other day. Oh yeah, the whole bloody woke thing. I realised that. So there's this big thing, isn't there, against like white men, white Christian men, and like white historic men and whatever. And it's all like being virtuous and being a good person and like being like so like caring, man. But if it was about being so caring, man, like for example Christianity would be, then it would be for all people, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be just virtue signaling on certain groups, would it? If it was actually all about being good and virtuous, then you wouldn't single out anyone, would you? Because if it was actually virtuous, it would be about everybody. So I realised that completely negates the whole thing. So if it's called virtue signaling for a reason, isn't it? But the people that do that, the people that think they're virtuous, if they were virtuous, they'd be virtuous for everybody, like Christianity is. But they're not. So it completely defeats the point what they're trying to make. It makes them completely and utterly hypocritical, as well as brainwashed. But completely and utterly hypocritical, which means that you don't have to listen to a thing they say, because the whole thing is based on hypocrisy. So then it's just like, they're just a noise. I realised that the whole thing is based on hypocrisy, and therefore they undermine their whole thesis. Their whole thing is they undermine it themselves. So it just doesn't make any sense, anything what they say anymore after that, which I thought was quite funny. I feel bad for them though, because they're the people, the people on the left, which is actually more like the bloody right now, how fascist it is. They're the ones that have the good nature, that are the ones that are susceptible to the brainwashing through the media. The people at the top take advantage of the people with the nicer natures, but there is also an element of like the narcissistic sort of, like back in the day, like nerds, and I'm trying to say this without sounding bad. Back in the day, there was like, society fell into line, and if you had a voice, it was because you were worth listening to. Whereas with the advent of social media and the internet, it gave the voiceless a voice. But if they had anything good to say, they would have already had one. And I think that's been a counterintuitive sort of, not counterintuitive, counterproductive side of giving the voiceless a voice, is this whole gender ideology thing. At the same time, they are brainwashed or whatever, but like, if you had a point, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking out of turn a bit, but then those types of people never had the Blue Hair Brigade, they never had a voice before because no one would listen to them. But then they banded together on the internet and then became like this force, but they're a completely hypocritical force that probably should just be ignored. Because the whole thing is based on hypocrisy. If you were actually being virtuous, you'd be virtuous to everybody, like I said, like Christianity. But you're not. You pick out certain ones, which means that it's not completely virtuous. Which means it's all bullshit. What are you saying? Anyway, I've been thinking about Daniela a lot. That girl went through a lot. And she did put me through a lot. If I hadn't, I said to my pastor yesterday, if I hadn't seen the things that she went through, there would be no way I'd be able to process and forgive or whatever. I am open to that. I'm also conscious that it needs to, and there are healthy boundaries are really important in all relationships, and they don't work without them. Well, I am also conscious that I'm older now, so she's figuring stuff out I've already figured out. But she did actually say there were mistakes that she made that I would have kind of made in previous relationships that then you don't take into your next relationship. But I said, well, I'm strong, so. Yeah, she saved my life, and then so much heavy shit happened to her. But then there was time after the heavy shit where it's just like, all right, like, chill. I'm human. Boys will be boys and girls will be girls. And wokes are hypocrites. It is a good point. I don't mean to play my own trumpet, but that is a good point. That's from God. That's not me. That's one other thing. When you do something, experience that it's just God and you're just experiencing it. Like, I don't think that these thoughts are like my own in a sense, because like if you think, where do you get an idea from? Where do you get creativity from? Where do you get words or whatever from? I would suggest that there's a possibility that everyone's just God talking to God. But what do I know? I'm usually wrong. But I'm probably not wrong about woke. More because I'm not. I only really say things if I actually 100% believe them to be true, and I have thought a lot about stuff, but I know I do get stuff wrong. Because then you evolve and you get more information, and it's misguided to suggest that you've got all the information. But if I've got conviction in something, it's usually because I've got enough of information to make a solid opinion, which is taking in all different sides of information, like narrative, counter narrative, all of it, looking at a critical thinking. That's important, critical thinking. The governments don't want you to do that because they want you to tell you what to do. Yeah, taking in all the readily available information from all the different sides, and then using your own critical thinking to ascertain what is actually the truth. Because ultimately, it does seem like, yeah. I think we're gonna get to a point with AI and stuff where you're only gonna actually listen to and know that the people in front of you in person, like at seminars or churches or whatever, are telling the truth, because ultimately you're not going to be able to know who is telling the truth and who's not, because you don't know what's AI and what's not. And ultimately, kind of like now, what do you know on the media that's not manipulated for an agenda? God, I look tired, don't I? Long couple of years, decade, life. It's mad, really, because if you look at what I had in life on paper, it's like, oh my God, he's got such an amazing life, which means that people don't help. But shouldn't be judgmental because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and it's nice to be nice, and you don't always know what people are going through. And I'm not just speaking that about myself, virtue signaling. I'm sort of saying, like, when someone cuts you up in traffic, like maybe they're late for an important thing, and have you ever done that? I mean, I've done that. Yeah, judged and be judged, or whatever the phrase is. Anyway, that'll do you. That's your lot. That was just a few points I wanted to make, because I do get anxious when I do these. Kind of, not anxious. I don't feel good. I feel like my energy's taken from me, and I'm keeping to myself more nowadays. I'm getting my head down. I'm pleased with the progress of a number of things. So I just want to get my head down and do it and stop talking about it. Yeah, like the LinkedIn mindset of like saying what you're doing and saying, because the other thing is people can put energy on what you say you're doing. I know that might sound mad, but I can't find a lighter. It's not annoying. I'm going to stop this very soon. I've been cutting down. I smoke very strong cigarettes, but I've really been having half recently, which is expensive as well. Right, that's your lot. Peace out.